Should you start a startup and become a startup founder? I'm going to give you the TLDR version. The answer is no. Don't do it. And I'm going to tell you why, but then I'm also going to tell you if you cannot not do it. In other words, you absolutely must start a startup. I'm going to give you the advice to get you going, or at least how to make the decision. In this video, we're going to walk through that and more. This is part of a new series I'm starting. I'm calling the founder journey. Every step of the founder journey, I'm going to go right from ground zero all the way up to building a startup to the point where you exit. You can have your startup acquired, or some other type of astronomical, fantastic exit. So first things first, people go, hey, I have an idea. I should become a founder. I should start a startup. These are the questions you should be asking yourself. The first question being, should I even start a startup? And like I said, the answer is no. I would discourage the regular person from starting a startup. The proof is in the pudding. The stats are out there. The number of startups, 90% of startups are going to fail, and a very small percentage actually become these big unicorn companies that everybody romanticizes. It is hard. Being a startup founder is really, really hard, especially if you're by yourself. It's a little easier if you got co-founders, which is going to be another step along this journey, but it is emotionally taxing. It is hard. There's so many things to do. Startup founders have to operate at a completely different level because there's a difference between startups and small businesses, which we're going to talk about in a future video. But I can just tell you, it's so hard. The cost, the mental health, the toll that it takes, emotionally speaking, to your relationships, because you're not going to relate to your friends. You're going to be alienated, even from other entrepreneurs who aren't going to understand what a startup even is, because you're trying to do something new, disrupt a market. You're trying to do things that other people have not done before. So I cannot tell you or stress even more, being a founder is super hard. If you can avoid it, don't do it. If you want to do it because you think, oh, it's the best way to make money, or there's nothing else to do, those are all lies. It is not the best way to make money. Okay. Yeah. You look at Elon Musk and the richest people in the world were startup founders and stuff, but look at all the other people who aren't, right? Look at all the other people who failed along the way. And I just know way too many horror stories. I've seen the body bags of founders that just did not make it, and their lives are worse for it, that they shouldn't have become a founder in the first place. I give you the doom and gloom because I want to discourage you from being a founder. It's just really straightforward. Now, if you're still undeterred, you're like, but Ed, okay, let me bring up a scene in Moneyball. Okay, there's a scene in Moneyball, the Brad Pitt movie, where he uses sabermetrics and he's doing all these analytics to build the Oakland A's, that compete for a championship, etc., with lowest payroll. He goes and he's talking to Scott Hatterberg, I believe, the athlete who was a washed-up catcher, and said, "You're going to play first base." And Hatterberg's like, "I've never played first base." And Brad Pitt's character, the general manager, he's like, "Oh, it's easy." And he's got his first base coach with him. And he's like, "Tell him how easy it is." And he just says, "No, it's hard. It's really hard." That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to tell you it's super hard, despite all the people trying to encourage you. Now, if you still want to do it, okay, these are the things you should be thinking about in terms of how to decide whether you're going to become a startup founder, whether you should start a startup or not. The first one is cost of opportunity. You want to be asking yourself, what is the cost of opportunity? Cost of opportunity is how much you lose out on in terms of revenue, opportunity, upward mobility, etc., by doing a startup and not doing something else. For example, you say, I could YOLO my life and I could, put all this, put my career aside. And let's say you had a real swanky job for 6 figures, waiting for you, right? I don't know if you're in Canada or not. I'm in Canada, or what part of the world that you're in, but the average private sector, professional makes on average, I saw $58,000 per year. Okay. That's in Canadian dollars. If you could be making $100,000 because you got some swanky job lined up and you're in the upper end of it, and you decide not to do that, instead go be a startup founder, which you lose out on your first job experience or different things like that, or maybe you become unemployable because you're just not building your career and you kind of were going in a different direction. Well, what is that going to cost you? It's not only going to cost you, $100,000 a year if your startup fails. It's going to cost you potential future earning as well, in terms of network, reputation, all those things. Just one way to look at cost of opportunity. The cost of opportunity is also great if you are in a more mature position. For example, the difference between a founder who's like 19 years old, been hacking away, and you're a self-taught programmer, and you can live in mom's basement or, sit in the garage with a bunch of friends and ship product and see if you can make a go of it, versus if you're older and you've got kids and you've got a mortgage and different things, different costs. Well, what happens is if you go become a founder and then you just completely run out of money, what could you have been making if you were just, started another type of business, maybe a more conservative, a small business, or just went and got a job? These are the things that you have to think about, all based on the context of who you are as a founder. And if you have other people involved in your life, for example, I don't make any decisions without my spouse. And, she gets to chime in. I tell her, you're the chairman of my board, you're the CEO, like, you are the person who's going to make the final decision. Let's look at the cost of opportunity. And we look at both sides. I could go get a job here, I could do this. And it just so happened it worked out, but for the longest time it didn't. And I paid a huge cost of opportunity for some really dumb mistakes that I made. So you want to be thinking cost of opportunity, because there's always a chance to become a founder later. What if you just need to go on a career path, put a few $100,000 in the bank, have your nest egg, and everything's secure, you can bounce back into a career at any moment in time? Well, guess what happens? That might be a better opportunity, better use of the cost and your personal resources for investment in the short term. The next, self-awareness. Like I told you, it's hard. Some people go into becoming a founder and they have no self-awareness whatsoever. They don't know how they're built. They get stuck and they say, you know what? I didn't realize that I need structure. I need to go in an office every day. Being a founder, they're like, I don't know what to work on a daily basis. I can't motivate myself. I'm not self-driven. I'm not self-motivated. And that's okay. You might be just a really great employee and you get promoted to management or, what have you. Some people aren't good for becoming a solo entrepreneur or to just work with a co-founder. They're better at managing. Okay. There's a difference between leadership and management. Some people are just really great management. They're great managers. Startup founders require a high degree of leadership. And there's some people just not cut out. They're not interested in becoming leaders. They just want to go in and manage a system or lead in a corporate environment that's better for them, right? A lot of people don't know self-awareness, what it takes to bring on an investor or a co-founder. They like their autonomy too much, et cetera. So, but they make all these crazy decisions in terms of co-founders and equity and, raising capital and all these things. So how much self-awareness do you have? And what you got to do is compare yourself to other founders. Go talk to other founders and tell them, what did you learn about yourself? What are the personality traits? And like what are the personality traits or the level of self-awareness that you think is required in terms of your own experience? What didn't you know about yourself? Or what don't you don't know? Like, what's the stuff that you didn't know? And what happened when you stumbled over it, etc. All right. Some founders are just neurotic and they make better employees in really high situations where you need to pay attention to detail or you need to be alarmist, about something. It's not good for you when you're a founder. If you're neurotic and because you're going through the roller coaster of emotions, you're like, this isn't me, can't handle the ups and downs. How much self-awareness do you have to help you become a founder and get through that emotional roller coaster? Next, support community. Going to talk about co-founders in a future step and how to set up co-founders. But the thing is all about support. Do you have people who are going to support you? Right? I talked to some founders and they are isolated. Their spouse isn't supporting their dream. It's all contentious. They're in a small ecosystem where they don't have anybody they can reach out to, and they're making very poor decisions, or they've got these blinders on. Cognitive bias sets in, and they can't see the forest for the trees, and they don't have people watching their backs or their blind spots. And especially when you go through that emotional time, you're going to have really bad days as a founder. I like to say being a founder is like getting punched in the face 10 times a day. And the best thing you can hope for is to get up at the end of the day after the 10th time you've been knocked down. And then maybe, just maybe, after a little while, you swing back and you get a few of your shots in, and just maybe you make it to the end of 10 rounds, and just maybe you win one match, let alone win the whole championship. Maybe, right? And I say this not to scare people, although I do want to deter people from making poor decisions with their lives and, make decisions that they can't take back. And I've seen founders ruin their lives with poor decisions in becoming a startup founder, trying to do a startup. I'm saying this to be realistic of the support community that you need. The types of people that I have in my life support that I can just go and say, today was the crappiest day I've had yet in my founder career, and they support me. They don't try to fix me, which I'll talk about in a moment. What they do is they support me, and they're willing. They love me enough to give me the feedback and watch my back and have the blind spots covered, etc. What type of support community do you have? And are they all on board? They may need time to weigh in before you can ask them to buy in to your whole startup dream. So what's the support community look like? Then it's joy capacity. All right. This is part of my investment thesis that I'm developing, something called Joy Effects. And it's all about joy. And what I say is joy is not the feeling of being happy all the time or like immense happiness. Joy, I define it as motivated to be with someone or to be with you in my strength, but especially my weakness. Joy are the people that you want to go to as part of your support community, where you say, when I've had a really crappy day, these are the people that I want to cry on their shoulders, and they're not trying to fix, heal, convert, teach, and direct me. They don't use it as a teachable moment to make me feel even worse about myself, make me feel bad, or shame me in any sort of way, or give me a lesson or try and rescue me, what have you. They're just say, I'm really glad that you told me what you're going through. I can be vulnerable and authentic with them. And that helps me. There's so many things that happen in the brain, with the right side of the brain, the executive control function, prefrontal cortex, all that stuff. And so you need to have joy capacity. You need to know what it is, the ability to go somewhere and be weak and vulnerable, because you're going to feel weak and vulnerable all the time. And then there are the people who give you joy that you want to celebrate with. And so when I get a win, I'm going right to my wife and I say, I had a great phone call. I hit this milestone, et cetera, hit this deadline. And I want to celebrate with her, because you got to celebrate the little victories as well. And believe me, those big victories, being a founder, like, great exit. It's like spending years and years and years toiling, discipline, going through thankless iterations, and just grinding it out. You're in the suck. Years of that to become an overnight success, right? If you can't celebrate the little victories and you don't have the people to celebrate the little victories with, then it's not a good idea. That's the reason I'm part of startups.com, right? I'm part of that founder community. We're Online Founder Accelerator. And, I could put out in our chat with other people, and I could say, I had a really tough holidays. And this is where I'm feeling really weak. And I have all pouring of people who are like, I'm here for you. They don't offer me advice. They don't tell me, well, you should have zigged when you zagged and all that stuff. They say, thank you for sharing. And, what can I do to help? I'm here for you, type thing. Or they share their own experience. And I go, wow, this is a community of joy. Joy effects, right? It's a network of joy. And then also when something really good happens, they're the first people I want to tell, other than my wife, of course. Something happens in the community. Guess what? This person just got funded. No, we got them through, etc. I'm putting it out there. I'm writing out testimonials. Joy capacity is going to, mark my words, well, this is my thesis, and I believe I can prove it, is that the founders, the startups that can create joy for themselves, inside their companies, for their employees and their customers, are going to be the next billion-dollar companies. So that's just something you want to consider. What's the joy capacity? And are you even going to enjoy being a founder? Right. And that, again, that's motivated to be with the people around you in your strength, but especially your weakness. So there you have it. Those are the 4 things that you want to think about. The next thing is the difference between a startup and a small business. So many founders don't understand this. I could say with some pretty high confidence that 50% of the startups that come and say, I'm a startup, I can say, you're not a startup, you're a small business. And in the next video, I'm going to talk about the difference, because maybe you're better suited for a startup or a small business versus a startup. Maybe you're better suited for startups. Okay. I get challenged with this all the time. My family say, why don't you just start a small business? Like, you're entrepreneurial and everything. I can tell them I'll die in a small business. I can't do the same thing and operate a small business system on a daily basis. I need the challenge of startups. And so maybe you're better designed for that. I'm going to talk to you about the difference between a 10% small business versus a 10x startup. And sometimes 10% is a really great way to go. It's a great way to live, right? And there are people who are, multi-millionaires because of small business. There are private equity companies that will buy your company for tens of millions of dollars because you're a small business, not a startup. There are investors that do not invest in startups. They invest in small businesses. So you want to know the difference, and you want to do this. So you go in with eyes wide open, and you want to say, all right, do I know myself enough? Have I gone through these steps? Think about the cost of opportunity, self-awareness. Do I have the support of the community and my joy capacity? And then look at the alternatives between a startup and a small business, just to make sure before you take your next step on this journey. Hope this video was helpful for you. As I said, I'm going to do this regular series where I want to just walk everybody through the steps, like right from cradle to grave, if you will. Well, maybe it's an actual grave. I just thought about that for a moment in that expression. But stick around, leave comments, ask questions, helps me understand the different topics people want. I appreciate all feedback. And as always, if you want to join us at startups.com, online, on demand, community accelerator of founders accelerating other founders. We have all this, office hours, we have group meetings, etc., to go through and talk about all this stuff. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next video.